Guys, so as of today, Jokic did win the MVP. He is the back-to-back MVP. Me as a Nuggets fan, as you can see, I'm a huge fan of the decision that they made. I feel like that this MVP race, it could have went either way, honestly. I would have been happy either way if it was Embiid, if it was Giannis. I think that this was one of the races where you really couldn't go wrong, but the one thing that's just is not sitting right with me is just the Jokic slander that we're getting right up right off a rip, man. Like I turn on my TV, like I get the notification, I'm like, he won the MVP, let's go, man. Turn on my MVP, and the one thing that they're just debating already is like, should he have won the MVP? Why did he win the MVP? Did Giannis get robbed? Did Embiid get robbed? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why does he? I don't understand the slander personally because me from like a Nuggets point of view, I know I'm a little bit biased, of course, I can recognize that, but at the same time, man, like Jokic got drafted during a literal Taco Bell commercial in the middle of the second round, and he's just to me, he's one of the most humble MVPs ever, yet the most disrespected MVPs ever. He had a literal legendary season, did stuff that no other player has ever done before, and I just don't understand the slander that he's getting already, considering that the day just started and he's already getting slandered for the MVP. Rather, I feel like if it was Giannis or Embiid, it would be the other way around. I feel like people would be praising them more, whereas to Jokic one, people are questioning it more. What do you think? I know that you're a little bit on the other side of the spectrum, so I'm
Yeah.
curious to see what you're thinking.
So this is my stance. I'm not mad that Jokic won it. Like, I'm not taking anything away from him. Like, I'm not like, oh my god, like, no way. Like, he definitely had a crazy season.
Yeah.
But to me, like, Jokic having more MVPs than Kobe Bryant and Kevin Durant just does not sit right with me. Like,
True. I get that. I can see it.
like it doesn't sit right with me. And Embiid leading his team in scoring, like leading the league in scoring as a center for the first time since Shaq is like insane. And also, I think what puts Embiid above Jokic for me is like Jokic isn't as bad as like on this level of like small ball lineups, but like Loki, he gets played off the court when small ball lineups come around, and it's
True.
like we saw Embiid last night, and he was literally guarding the perimeter with Jimmy Butler. Like Embiid is such a two-way dominant force, and like Embiid doesn't get played off the courts. Like there's no defensive scheme where Embiid isn't on the court. You know, he is an elite rim protector, and Jokic, as much as he carries load on offense, like yeah, he literally does everything for the Nuggets. Like he's just not doing as much defensively. So like, is the
I
award like is the award like an offensive award only? Like,
I don't think it's offensive award only because I feel like the narrative of Jokic being a bad defender is kind of out the window as of right now. I understand that he's not nearly the defender as Giannis or Embiid. He obviously can't defend on the perimeter like those guys can because we saw in the Golden State Warriors series that they were picking apart Jokic on the defensive end. They were trying to force him into those one-on-ones with Steph. But at the same time, I feel like his impact offensively kind of overcomes the defensive impact. And it's not like he's a negative on defense. I don't think as much as he was in past years. I think that there was a stat that came up and he was one of the leaders in defensive win shares and like he's top 5 in that, and I just don't understand as to why.
how does it feel knowing that Jokic has more MVP? Jokic and Steve Nash have more MVPs than Kobe Bryant and Kevin Durant.
I think I can understand as to why people are mad at Steve Nash, but when it comes to comparing Jokic and Kobe, I feel like that's not fair at all because those MVPs that or the MVP that Kobe won, that was almost 15 years ago. That was a totally different time of basketball in itself, and I can understand as to why people are ragging on Steve Nash, but I don't think that's fair to Jokic. I mean, you can't blame him for winning the MVPs and having legendary seasons. And sure, you can be like, oh, Kobe only has one MVP, but Jokic has two. Sure, but I mean, at the
But
same time, what do you want him to do as a player?
my counter to that is like, yeah, obviously Jokic is having these crazy seasons, right? But like, what does he have to show for it?
He's got. I can see where you're coming from, but just like for me, I think that you can't really say that because there have been multiple MVPs that haven't won championships or that haven't went past certain rounds in the finals. I understand that he was a first round exit this year, but at the same time, he's done things that literally players have never done before in the regular season. That's the one thing that people are losing sight of is all the recency bias that's happening right now with Embiid and with Giannis. It's like this is a regular season award, and they're doing amazing things right now in the playoffs, but the whole award is in the regular season, and that's why I don't like as to why they released it
Yeah.
right now in the second round because obviously he's already out of the playoffs, and it just makes no sense anymore. I don't know why they do it right now because that's just gonna lead to more slander in itself, and it makes no sense the way that they've formatted the awards. But for me, man, it's a regular season award, and when you look at it, he had two of his best players out of the window. No Jamal. MPJ played like 5 games this season, and for me personally, going into the season, I looked at this Nuggets team and looking at that Aaron Gordon was our second best player, and you can argue that Will Barton, who played us out of so many games, is obviously one of our top 3 players on that squad. Like when you look at Embiid's teams, Giannis's teams, their second or third or maybe even fourth best player is better than the Nuggets' second best player. And Jokic took that team, willed it
That
to a 6 seed.
that's where I disagree because like Giannis's team is obviously not comparable. Like Giannis's team is definitely the best out of all three. But like
Embiid.
Ben Simmons quit, dude. Ben Simmons didn't even play a game for the Sixers this year, and he was carrying the load. Like pre-Harden, it was literally him, Tyrese Maxey, and like Shake Milton. Like
And Tobias Harris, and you
I
have all
mean,
these
yeah,
other people.
I did forget about Tobias Harris. He's in there as
You
well,
gotta
but like
understand that at least for me, like when I look at guys like Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey, like those are so much better than I love Aaron Gordon. I love me some Aaron Gordon, but when you look at the moments that Tyrese Maxey has had in the playoffs or even in the regular season, it is so much better than the moments that Aaron Gordon has had. And when you just look at the player in itself, it may not seem like it, but me personally, I think that Philly's surrounding pieces around Embiid is a whole lot better than Jokic's.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but it's also like it's just kind of like ties back to the point I said like a minute ago. Like the award needs to be reworked, but like
Okay.
to me, it does not sit right with me that an MVP can be schemed like out of a game. If not, like obviously Jokic isn't being taken out of the game, but like that small ball Warriors lineup was like basically putting him on the bench for like stretches of time. Like he was unplayable because they were getting him on switches on the perimeter against guards, and it was like barbecue chicken every time. Like to me, that doesn't sit right with me that an MVP can be schemed out of games like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I totally get what you're coming from at the same time too. But no, yeah, I get you.
You know?
I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. But at the same time, like I was saying, he can be barbecue chicken on the defensive end, but he's also doing the same thing on the offensive end at the same time. He's
No, he
taking
definitely
advantage of
is.
those
Yeah.
smaller defenders, and I don't think he's getting totally abused on the defensive end. He's had his moments where he can hold
I
his
mean,
own,
it
but
was
it's
really
not
bad
as
against
much.
the Warriors, dude. They were
Yeah,
targeting
true.
him almost every single play.
Yeah, and they were for sure, and they got the best of him. I agree with you on
I don't
that
put that
point.
loss on him. Like the
No,
Warriors
yeah,
were
yeah.
obviously like they were so outmatched against the Warriors that it's like to blame Jokic for that loss would just be stupid. Like he was just a little small part of it. Like without Jokic, that team is putting up 50 points max.
Yeah,
Like
exactly, for sure.
so like I don't put that against him, but like that also like leads to the point of like why does the award just stop in the regular season? Like
Yeah,
almost
true.
every single playoff, every single MVP is going to play in the playoffs, right? Like, why
Mm-hmm.
are we cutting it short of the regular season? Like Embiid, they missed 2 games with Embiid. They get destroyed. You know, he comes back. You see a brand new team. Like, we
But
need
you
to
could
we
say
need to
the same
credit
thing
the
with,
playoffs.
and I get that, but you could say the same thing with Jokic. I mean, it goes back to your point. I mean, I think that's a little contradicting because if you take
Yeah.
away Jokic, this is a lottery team. Like literally, this is gonna be a top 3 draft pick type team without Jokic. Aaron Gordon's gonna be your best player, and I think that you could say the same thing for Jokic. I mean,
It's
if
like
you take him away, they're nothing. Like literally nothing at all.
it's like Russ's Thunder. Like the Russ
True.
Thunder year when he won the MVP. Like without him, that team's a lottery team. But like
Is that worthy?
it was that worthy. Like obviously he had an insane triple double. Like the scheme was built for him to get triple doubles. But like was he really the best like player in the league? Like, yeah, he was the most valuable to his team, but like, I don't know. The award shouldn't be just be like most valuable to a team. Like, if that's the case, like LeBron should have more than 4 MVPs.
He should have like 10.
Exactly. Like the award just seems like the criteria for the award just seems to change every single year.
Yeah, and I get that too, but I feel like sadly, at least for me, it's sad because I think this will be the last year that Jokic will win an MVP for a long time because they're gonna get voters
Yeah,
fatigue,
definitely.
and the league's gonna see this as like, okay, we don't like how fans are reacting to him winning the MVP. We need to switch things up a little bit. I'm not gonna say that like the voting will be rigged and they're like, okay, we need to stop voting for Jokic, but I definitely think that if let's say hypothetically Jokic comes in next season and he has an even better season than what he does this year, and I just don't see another world where they're like, all right, he's got to win a third one in a row. Um, and it's sad too because the same thing happened to Giannis. You could argue that
Yeah,
Giannis could also have won the last two MVPs, and he should have four by
that's
now.
true.
And I don't know, it sucks, but at the same time, I'm still happy that he won the MVP. For me, I think it's
Yeah.
cool. I'm happy for him, but at the same time, man, I could so see as to why Embiid should have won it and Giannis shouldn't have won it, and I
It's
don't.
just like
Yeah,
I don't know, man. Like I said it earlier, like it irks me that like they could be schemed out of like games. Like even Russ in the Thunder, like he was essentially like taken out completely of that first round series. I think he lost to, like Houston or something.
yeah.
Like I don't know, man. Like,
So do
like
you think that?
the question I'm gonna ask you is like, if you're taking a player right now in the playoffs, for like regardless of team, you're taking an individual player, Embiid or Jokic, who are you taking?
I'm taking Jokic.
No way, dude. I'm
I
taking
just
Embiid,
am, bro. Literally, I think his impact just is so much better. I understand as to why some people would pick Embiid offensively and defensively, but if you're talking about just a single player and you surround them around their perfect team,
Yeah,
like that fits their needs, I'm picking Jokic easily. Because I think that you could surround Jokic around other defenders, other shooters, other scorers, and he would do amazing. In my opinion, I would just.
I
I
mean,
know that that's
offensively,
biased.
I definitely agree, but like, I feel like Jokic's game, like, yeah, he is obviously the best. Like you could say he's the most talented like big man we've like ever seen, right? Like he's on a different level, but like, I still like feel like he has like fundamental issues to his game that are just like not highlighted, if that makes sense. Like,
No, yeah, for sure. What would you say though? Like, is it just all defensively?
it's mostly his defense. Like offensively, there's nothing wrong with him. Like he's scoring at a ridiculous rate, getting triple doubles like alarmingly, but like. To me, Jokic isn't punished enough on the defensive end, like for his lack of defensive area, like
Okay.
as like other MVPs, if that makes sense. Like,
I get that, but you could also say that like this is just a totally different example that you could argue the same thing as to why Rudy Gobert has won multiple defensive players of the
yeah,
year.
I didn't
When
agree
Rudy
with
literally
that.
played off of the
Like,
floor. But at the same time, we still have to respect that he won those defensive players of the year for a reason. Sure, he's not all-rounded
yeah,
defensive player of the year where he can play on the perimeter, he can play in the paint, and he can do all these things as a whole, which is maybe how it should be. But at the same time, I see the most valuable player as the most valuable player to their team, and I think
yeah,
that Jokic beats that out in all the senses when it comes to any other team. I think if you take Embiid away, sure they're going to be awful, and as we saw that they were bad, but I don't think that they're going to be as bad as the Nuggets were. And if you take Giannis
no,
away,
that's
you
true.
still have Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and you have all these other guys that can. Obviously, no one's going to fill in the role of Giannis, but you can hold off until he's back, and I don't think the Nuggets could do that at all
So,
without Jokic.
question: when Jokic won his first MVP, right? They were all healthy, right?
Jamal was hurt.
Okay,
He got hurt.
he
I
got
think
hurt
it
in the
was halfway through
playoffs,
the
right?
season.
Oh, okay. I was
Nah,
really
he got hurt a little bit before the All Star break, or it was either before or after the All Star break because I remember it was just Porter took over in the second half of the year and
Oh yeah.
he went crazy that
Well,
second half. So
I
it was
definitely
just those
agree with
two.
you that like this will probably be his last MVP for a while.
Maybe ever.
Yeah,
Who
maybe
knows?
ever,
Maybe this.
honestly.
Yeah.
But now we're on the topic of awards. Like
Yeah.
John Morant, he shouldn't have won MIP. Like a second
No,
overall
I don't.
pick winning MIP.
That's what I'm saying. And he had a great season last year. Sure, he was an All Star, and I can see the argument as to people saying it's like, oh, he was borderline All Star to being a superstar in this league, and like even that is debatable in itself. I don't know. I feel like there's so many other people that are well worthy of it that I feel like that was just I feel like it was a cop out almost of just giving
Yeah, I
it to him.
agree.
It's like, all right, he's already having an amazing season. His leverage and like his how can you say this? Just his fan base and the way that they can sell it to the people. It's like, oh, John Morant, big superstar, MIP. This will sell. This will get us numbers. I feel like they thought of it more from a business
Yeah,
standpoint than
definitely.
from like who actually deserves the award in itself. Because there were so many other people that just it made more sense for,
Yeah.
and it just I don't know. It didn't make sense for me for Ja to win it. I mean, I don't know. He didn't even want it. He wanted to give it to freaking Desmond
Desmond
Bain, and like
Bain. I
you could
mean,
even make a better argument for him.
it's just that the PR is like obviously pushing Ja to like extreme heights. Like I don't know if you saw the screenshot that was going viral on Twitter, but like Ja literally had 14 consecutive posts on NBA's Instagram. Like it's like
That's
to
all it's
me
for.
it's like they wanted this to be Zion and it wasn't, so
Yes,
they're just
and
pushing
they're
it
just
back to Ja.
replacing it.
Yeah.
Yep, literally, and that's crazy too. That's funny that you say that. That's all PR because when I post my edits, if you look at the top like performing ones that I have, it's all John Morant. Like
It's just
he's
insane, dude. It's like
yeah, and it makes sense, and he sells, and I understand it's a business standpoint, but like we gotta keep it real, especially for this award because this award can tell a lot for how a certain NBA player's career can go. I mean, there's been a lot of really good MIPs, and this one just seems like
yeah,
a total cop out, and I wasn't a fan of it
I
either.
agree. I
Would
would
be your
I personally think Jordan Poole should have won it, dude.
I thought so
He went
too.
from the G
Mhm.
League to averaging 23 points a game in
That's
the
what I'm
playoffs.
saying, bro.
Like,
He was in the G League last year, the literal G League,
yeah,
bro. Like that in itself should have just said something, and I feel like that's something that the NBA could have pushed. It's like, okay, this is our not
he's on
downgrade,
the
but this is
Warriors too. It's like their little
yeah.
bread and butter team. You know, it's like
And it's not like he's a boring player to watch.
nah,
Jordan Poole is insane, and like he is a highlight machine. I don't know. I was thinking the same thing. I would have loved to seen Jordan Poole win it too.
dude. He's going from G League to like he'll get a max contract in like 2 years. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you think
I
he would
just like
stay?
it's just the PR is just insane. Like the Grizzlies PR, bro, that has been pushed these last couple weeks has just been like
A lot.
ridiculous. And like one thing that I don't like about that is like we're talking about John Morant. Like obviously he got injured and he like
Mhm.
I didn't think it was a dirty play. Did you?
I didn't think so either. I was questioned as when I watched the replay a couple of times and I questioned as to why he pulled his
Yeah.
leg, but I don't think that's what hurt Ja initially. If you look at the replay, they bumped knees,
Yeah.
and obviously that's what hurt him. And he's I don't know. He's over here saying that they broke the code and
Yeah,
that
you saw that,
you
and it's
had
like,
coach. Yeah, dude, and you had Coach Jenkins. He's like, oh, obviously he was tugging on his knee. It's like, bro, that's not what hurt him. He was going for the ball.
yeah,
It did look a little sus because the ball was way far away and he's over here grabbing his leg, and that may have a bad look to it. I could see as to why they would see it as a dirty play, but at the same time, I mean, it was a basketball play in my opinion.
yeah.
Totally.
I agree. I think it was a basketball play, and it's also like John Morant spent the entire season on Twitter educating us about like it's Memphis. We stand on everything in Memphis. He tweets out broke the
Mhm.
code and then deletes the tweet, and it's like,
Everyone's gonna see it. It's
what are you
gonna get out
doing?
at one point or another. You have millions of followers. Someone's gonna screenshot it, and it's gonna blow either way. And
Yeah,
you look silly deleting it after. If you're gonna say it, just keep it at that point. You just look dumb
and like
deleting your tweet after.
one thing that I will say about John Morant is like I am not by any means a John Morant hater. Like he's obviously like crazy talented, but like there are
Yeah.
some like antics that he does that I just don't agree with. Like
Yeah.
it's okay to not go on Twitter after every game. Like, and it's also
No, you
like,
don't have
did
to.
you see the video of the first game they played the Warriors? Desmond Bain pulled up for a three and he's hitting the gritty like as the ball's in midair, and it's like you lost that game, bro. Like you don't have
It's
like you haven't
bad.
won anything. You're playing a three-time champion like super team. Like
You're not credible to this point anymore. If you were doing that against Minnesota, by all
right.
means, but you're going up against the Warriors that are they're a
They
literal
lost by
dynasty.
30. Like they lost by
It's so
30, and like
Dude, I feel the same way with him as I do with Cat because
oh
Karl Anthony
yeah,
Towns had so many of those moments where, and I don't even know where that came from. I think that's just the Patrick Beverly effect in itself, but Cat had so many moments where he's just talking and yapping and doing all this extra stuff, but you're losing, bro. And
yeah,
like, if you're gonna talk, man, you gotta back it up. And I don't know, I don't like either of the way that they approach the game from that sense, especially just like the tweeting, bro. Like, there have been literal, I don't know if they're credible at all, but there have been literal stats of how many made
oh
field
I
goals
saw
Ja
those, yeah.
has versus how many tweets he has. It's like, dude, you're just just get off Twitter for a little bit, man. Go zero
Yeah,
dark 30 or just
and
something,
it's like
bro.
it's kind of hard because like I've been watching a lot of Ja. Like obviously these playoffs, watch every game, and
Yeah.
it's like he's kind of embracing the PR that the NBA is pushing. So like
Oh yeah,
after
for
every
sure.
timeout, like when they blow the whistle and the ball goes up, and he'll do like a 360 in midair after the whistle, like
Mhm.
just jump excessively high. It's like showing off his athleticism for no reason. Like the play doesn't count.
Exactly. He's
Like
looking for the clicks, man. He
exactly, and it's
knows.
like, dude, like, did you see the video of him clubbing in San Francisco the night before the game?
I did not know. Are you
Dude,
serious?
yeah, there's a clip on Twitter. He was at a nightclub in San Francisco like the night before the other night before, and he's clubbing in San Francisco, and it's like, dude, this is only the second round, bro. You haven't done anything yet. Like,
No.
what are like you think the war like Steph Curry's gonna see that and be like, oh, this kid thinks he can party against us, and then they lost by
Yeah,
30.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. It's he's had so many of those instances. I don't know if you remember when I think it was All-Star break and he's like going live on Instagram and he's in his private jet and he's just drinking and doing
I
all
did
this
see that.
extra stuff. Someone's got to tell him to handle his social media in a total different way. You can do whatever you want in your life, but at the same time, like you got to be careful with what you're gonna post because that's gonna people are gonna define him based off of those certain decisions, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, John Morant was in the club and he was doing this and he was doing that when he could have been doing this," and then people are gonna start to question him as a basketball player. How much do you actually want to win? Do you
and as a
actually
leader,
want this? Yeah, exactly. Like people are looking up to him, and I get that he's young. This is only his third year, so he still has a lot to learn. I feel like us as fans, we put a lot of pressure on players when it comes to just performing, and we forget that they're human beings too
for
sometimes, and
sure.
like and act like they can't go out and have fun and live their lives. And I understand that too, but at the same time, like from a strictly basketball standpoint, there's times where you look at him and it seems like he just not that he doesn't care, but not that he doesn't want it as much as he should, considering the place that he's in right now. Because they're good. That Grizzlies
I
team is
agree.
really good.
They are good.
They're
It's
still
just
young too. They're still
they're
young.
so like immature, like low key.
Yeah, it happens though, man. They're young, and especially in today's age when everything is gonna get glorified on social media, like they got the world in their hands right there, man. And it's just, yeah. I mean, it must be hard, but at the same time, like you gotta have an understanding of what and what not to do.
I agree.